I'm here with Helen from Pure Life Soil, and I just have to ask, as my very, very first question, is how in the world did you land in the business of soil, considering you are an individual that I've met over and over at different trade shows, and I always saw you dressed to the nines, high heels, dressing very fashionable, and I just couldn't understand how someone like you, not that there's anything wrong with it, but how did someone who's so fashion forward land in soil?
Well, it started many, many years ago. I do come from the design and build industry, and someone that I had worked for actually owns this company. Now, I go way back. I've always had my hands in the dirt since I was a little girl, and decades later, my hobby finally became my full-time job and my passion. So that's how I fell into this about 4 years ago. Now, going back to my hobby, I've always been a little bit science driven when it comes to soil and biostimulants. So I was really, really excited to fall into this new career of mine.
Well, you
Later
couldn't
in
be
life,
you couldn't be the most, you are the most suitable individual to help make soil desirable and sexy. So let's talk, how and why should individuals consider soil as sexy? What makes it sexy?
what makes it really sexy is what it does for us internally, and it shows on the outside. So soil that is healthy will make us healthy. And in return, we're going to just look great after a little while after eating healthy food that comes from healthy soil rather than eating food that comes from inert dirt, which is a huge difference.
Yeah, of course. And not to mention, in your soil, you utilize worm castings, aka poop, but worms in the soil also reproduce, and that's sexy. So let's talk about how there's like this closed loop ecosystem that happens in the soil and how vibrant the soil really is. So talk to me about, why are worms essential for soil health?
Well, worms are the ecological engineers of the planet. We can't deny that. So when we have healthy soil, you're going to find life in the soil. That means earthworms and all kinds of little biostimulants. And when I say biostimulants, we're going to talk about bacteria, we're going to talk about microbes, and we're going to talk about all the little protozoa and little bugs. We're talking about the food chain in the soil. So I'm going to show you right now one of my friends, or a few of them, and I'm going to bring this close up to the camera so you can all see it.
Oh, that's
And
that's
I'm
a
not afraid
juicy
to get my,
one. That's
yes,
a
I'm not
juicy one.
afraid to get my hands dirty. So I'm going to turn this worm around. So here we go. This is the head, this is the
Uh,
band, and this is the tail end. Now, this is also the top end of the worm. So I'm going to show you the belly side. And there
uh-huh.
we go. You can see it's lighter. Now, these
Mm.
guys are going to eat anything that's in the ground and they're going to turn it into black gold, which is loaded with micronutrients and a healthy microbiome, just like we have in our gut. And
Mm.
that's why we need these guys in the soil. So they're going to try to, not they're going to try, they're actually going to accomplish bringing the soil back to health again if the soil is not healthy. Everything that they eat and everything that passes through their body is going to turn into a pure filtered byproduct, which is a living soil. It's a living, breathing, growing medium.
And so, how does your soil compare? Because obviously, you're using live organisms, right? Living organisms. How does that compare to soil that we find at just the corner store, for instance?
So the conventional soil is very different from what we produce. So we're feeding millions of earthworms and they're going to poop out the soil for us. When you're buying conventional soil, you're buying inert dirt that came from somewhere. We don't know where it came from. So picture a subdivision being built and a builder goes in and they're going to dig out 500 basements. Where does all this backfill go? We don't know. But when you're driving down the road, you're going to see a huge hill of like, or a mountain of just inert dirt. It's got rocks in it, shale, clay, weeds growing out of it, garbage. There's plastic in there, batteries, metal, all kinds of things. Eventually, a soil producer is going to come around and he's going to say, I'm going to sell this as soil. So he'll scoop it up, he'll run it through a screener. And as it goes through the screener, it's going to be sprayed with weed killer and dye. So
Mm.
when you buy this conventional soil, you're going to open up this bag and you're going to see this dark, rich soil and you're going to think it's great. But the following year, you're going to see your plants aren't thriving and the soil
Hmm.
actually turns gray because all the paint that's in it will leach down deep into the ground and there'll be no signs of life. No bugs will
Uh-huh.
survive in there at all. You won't see earthworms, you won't see bugs, you won't see anything thriving,
Hmm.
basically.
Right. This reminds me of the epidermis, so skin health. So many individuals, in the industry that I also work in, they're constantly thinking about how to make the surface look beautiful and striking, adding that dewy effect using concealers and makeup and so on. But meanwhile, the foundation, which is the dermis, is unhealthy. And so just comparing that to soil health and how the microbiome and essentially plays such a unique role in preserving the health of the soil, but also health of skin and so on. Let's go back into that because I think it's just really important. So, in your facility, because you have a massive facility, PS, in Canada, which is wonderful. It's so refreshing to be speaking to a Canadian brand that are doing things differently. So, going back to the microbiome and all that, tell me more about it. Let's go deeper, like foundationally. How do you produce? Like, what is your facility? How does it operate to ensure the microbiome is there?
So we're going to start from the very beginning because this is a little bit complex and a little scientific, but you're going to be really excited to hear how pure this really is. So our company basically subleases 6 chunks of farmland. For about 50 years, we have protected these lands from ever being sprayed or tilled. That's where we're going to pick our worms from. We're never going to pick worms from a sprayed golf course or a park or anywhere that's been chemically treated. So we'll check weather patterns during the day, and the pickers will go out at night to the most desirable location, and they will bring in worms. We'll be picking worms all night long.
Oh my
We know what
goodness.
species to pick, and they'll bring them in the morning. At that point, we're going to inspect the worms when the truck drops off the worms. We're going to inspect them and make sure that they're all healthy, the right color, they're not cut or at the end of their lifespan. And we will divide them into flats of 500 and we'll feed them and they'll go into a cooler for 2 weeks where they're going to just live a happy, healthy, safe life where they won't get plucked up by a bird and they're going to eat and poop for 2 weeks.
That sounds really delicious.
Yes, it is. After the 2 weeks, we're going to check their habitat and we're going to make sure that they've eaten all their feed stock. And that's when we're going to take them out. We're going to separate the worms from their castings and put the worms back in, refeed them, and they go into the cooler for another 2 weeks while they'll continue to eat and poop. So it's a rinse and repeat cycle.
Wow, that is incredible. Going back to the worms and picking them at night. Why at night?
So the worms can't be out in the light. They don't function. It hurts them. So the light really is
Mm.
quite painful for them. So UV rays from the sun are quite painful for them. It actually breaks down their cells. Artificial light, they don't particularly like. So these guys are exposed right now. I'm just going to hold this up. They're exposed, but they're hiding underneath the dirt right now. Moonlight,
Hmm.
however, produces a painful protein that surges through their body. So if the moon is full that night, the pickers don't go out. They're staying in, they're having a night off. But a sliver of a moon, it'll be a busy night.
Okay, so fascinating. My goodness. Okay, let's dig deeper, pun intended, on the types of soil offered at Pure Life Soil because you have different ones. So, how does someone know what type to buy?
So, depending on what you're growing, we're going to suggest different soil blends. And we also do custom blends. So, if you're growing fruits and vegetables and anything ornamental that blooms, I'm always going to recommend a living soil. If you need soil for potted plants for something really simple inside your home, I'll recommend a potting mix. And then for your in ground gardens, for perennials and ornamentals as well, I'll recommend a garden mix. Now,
Mhm.
all of these mixes and all of these blends will have a high concentration of our earthworm castings in it. So it doesn't matter really, you're always going to get a high nutrient dense blend, but they're all going to service a different plant.
Okay, so very tailored. I like that. Going back to how traditional soil is sold and the importance of constantly feeding it nutrients through fertilizers and all these other things, which to me, I feel like I always do it incorrectly, measuring the liquid incorrectly and this and that. And it becomes so tedious in terms of maintenance. What's the maintenance looking like when we buy your soil? Do we still have to buy all these additives?
Absolutely not. Our soil is just add water mix, and our soil is actually like a fine bottle of wine. It gets better with time as long as you just leave it alone. Don't till it, don't turn it, don't start picking at it because you're going to start killing all the microbes that are in the soil. So just like a
Mhm.
fine bottle of wine, let it sit and let it rest and let it do its job. It's going to start trapping all the carbon from the atmosphere. It's going to do all these fun tricks that we don't typically see with the human eye, but we feel it, we smell it, and we can just see it through our skin. Just like a surface level thing that you were talking about earlier, that's how deep
Yes.
we go with the soil. So what you see on the surface isn't really what's happening below the surface. It's doing all
Okay.
kinds of wonderful things for the atmosphere and for our health.
And not to be, doom and gloom, but how is the use of pesticides playing a role now in worm populations? Like, how do I know if I take your soil and I put it outside and I put it in my vegetable garden and my planters, how do I know how many worms actually live there? How do I know if it's actually the right ecosystem for the soil and the plants and whatever I'm planting? How do I know it's going to thrive?
So if you're out at nighttime, that's your first indication. If you see earthworms on the surface level, you'll know that your soil is healthy and that life is thriving there. Secondly, you're going to check the color of your soil. It's going to be rich and dark without the use of dyes or anything else that you've added to the soil. So the soil should be as dark as I have here in this container. And this is just all natural. And then the third thing is your plants are going to be thriving. That's how you're going to know that your soil is healthy. Your plants are lush, they're green, they're fragrant. Some plants will be thriving for more. The
Yeah.
blooms won't be as big. They won't be, the color won't be right. Leaf structure won't be great. Neither will the root structure, but you'll know right away when you see life and plants thriving and the color.
So again, this is so similar to skin health and what's appearing on the surface. Healthy skin doesn't need makeup and doesn't need the addition of other ways to accentuate the skin, the luminosity. So I really love what we're discussing here because I feel like making that correlation between skin health and soil health really helps, enforce or solidify the importance of both and how the foundational work, what we do underneath the epidermis and what we do beneath the soil is paramount in a thriving ecosystem. So Helen, thank you so much for your time. This has been beautiful and so packed with so much insight. Really, I believe that the more we talk about soil health, the more we talk about the importance of worm and of course their role in maintaining soil health. I feel like we're essentially going to be saving the planet in the most
Essentially,
desirable, sexy way.
yes, it is very sexy. Just like the microbiome in the soil is the microbiome in our gut, and will just look prettier all around.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for
So,
having me as well.
so how do individuals get in touch with you? I know you do a lot of education, lots of events, lots of trade shows. Obviously, you have a website with a whole slew of different products. So, how do individuals get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with us through Instagram, through our email address, which is info@purelifesoil.com, or just by calling our office. You'll get myself or one of my two colleagues. So we're just a small family business, but you can totally get in touch with us because we do big, great things there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Helen.